Right, here we go. So, hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining. As we've already said just before we start recording now, we are going to go through a fantastic array of data and creative today. The first half of today is going to be presented by Matt, who's going to take you through some fantastic web data to show you how you can compare yourself with competitors and see your advantages and how you can gain more traffic through channels. And then on the second half, we'll come through to the persona data with myself and end with a few creative I suppose best practice guides in the end in terms of how to get the best out of your marketing strategy. We have picked on somebody. I don't think they have registered. We'll go into that to kind of show you a bit more later on. But it kind of highlights what you will get if you come to us and ask for your data and report post webinar. So today, fantastic offer. Anybody that's registered can ask and request a free version of this report for themselves if you give us your competitors, and we can set up a time to walk that through with you post webinar. So without further ado, we'll get on with the actual webinar, and yeah, over to you, Matt.
Fab. Thanks a lot, Tom. Morning, mate. So yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us early this morning, and welcome to our construction industry marketing analysis. So first and foremost, a little bit about myself and Tom. So my name is Matt, and I am a digital strategist at Anicca. So essentially, I help all clients with sort of their overall digital strategies, which channels are going to be the best channels to utilize from a marketing standpoint, and how you can make the most of your marketing budgets. And we've also got Tom, who you've heard from already. Do you want to do your own intro, Tom?
Why not? Why not? So yeah, we're full service agency. So Matt's far more technical than I am. But then when it comes over to my side, it's very much creative led, and I suppose strategic in terms of the ideation of how we capitalize on engagement.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tom. And obviously, the creative side being something that we've added in and focused on a little bit today as well. So I'm looking forward to that bit, Tom, personally. So a little bit about Anicca. We were established in 2007. I think, there's about 27 of us now, and we've got around about 45 clients. But, as it says there, no ego, no bull. We're very, very data-driven at Anicca, which I'm sure you're all about to find out. And a little bit about what we've done here for you today. So essentially, we've utilized some of the top industry tools, as it says there, and we'll be providing you with a competitor analysis piece, followed by some more helpful information about sort of personas, the sort of people that you should be targeting and talking to with your marketing. So very quickly, we're looking at a national level analysis, so businesses up and down the country. And first and foremost, we're going to show you what the market that we've analysed looks like as a whole. We're then going to move on to the marketing channels that are being used by these businesses as things stand, and who are like the leaders for each of those channels. We're then going to have a quick look at audience and demographics, so a breakdown of things like age group and gender and geography as well. And then we're going to move on to Tom, who's going to show us that persona information that I already mentioned, and then also a creative overview as well. And this is from a B2B and B2C point of view, very important.
Yeah, and just a quick snapshot on the data that we've pulled out today. As it says right there, we've utilised and for this example used the biggest construction businesses within the UK. As you'll see, it might not be relevant for yourselves. It might be bang on for yourselves, but obviously we had to start somewhere. Construction is such a big industry. But as I said, afterwards, there's a handout button at the top. You can download this presentation at any point. We'll circulate this recording afterwards, after a couple of hours, And obviously, as I say, just as a final reminder, we are giving away a free version to make it more relevant to you. So this is just an example utilizing the biggest companies in the UK just for this webinar.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Tom. So without further ado, let's get cracking into some of the data. So first and foremost, we've got the market overview. So specifically, these are the 30 businesses that we have used for our comparison purposes. You can see there we've got Kier Group, we've got Morgan Sindall Group, and then we've also got Mace, JRL Group, tons and tons of businesses, loads and loads of data. We're able to put all of these businesses into what is referred to as an industry group, and therefore we're able to start to glean some information with regards to which marketing channels they're using, how big this industry is in terms of traffic and users, and also start to think about what are the next steps if you're looking to use the information from this report to then build on your own strategy.
And those top 30 in the one before, just as a thing there, it's in terms of current active projects. That's the size. So you might be looking at the list going, we're bigger than those, but it's at the moment it's the data that we found in terms of the current active projects. So there you go. Sorry, Matt, to interrupt.
No, thanks for clarifying, Tom. So with that in mind, we can first off see the top performing businesses. Now, this is top performing from a traffic share point of view. Now, quite often what you do see with this report is, one or two businesses really sort of running ahead with the amount of traffic that they're generating. But in actual fact, the traffic is quite nicely spread between almost all 30 businesses. And you can see there straight away, Mace Group has a total of 58,000 monthly visits on average. And you can also see information about which of these businesses are moving month on month in terms of the amount of traffic they're gaining or losing. So tslprojects.com there, 1,195% up in traffic month on month. So very quickly you can start to see which of these businesses have very clearly started to utilize some more marketing channels and have started to push their business forward. And then if we take a look at the second slide, you can see right down there to the bottom, GMI Construction Group and 0.2% of the traffic. However, what we do need to bear in mind is that even with 0.2% of the traffic, it's still not a tiny amount of traffic. There's still some insight that we can gain from that. And that's based on the fact that through the last year, there are 5.3 million total visits to this group of businesses. So a very, very large data set and loads of users to potentially be attracting to your own site, to your own businesses. We can also see that on average, the businesses are getting 82,000 unique visitors, or the market is getting 82,000 unique visitors. So, I mean, straight away, we do notice that 82,000 visitors certainly doesn't make up 5.3 million through the year, but that's because a lot of these unique visitors are having multiple sessions, multiple visits to these websites. And then finally, we've also got a little bit of information about the device distribution. So what I mean by that is, are people visiting your website from a desktop or are they visiting from a mobile? And I mean, we're talking almost literally a half and half split there. A little bit different to a lot of the industries that we see. We do often find that most industries have 60, 70% of visits from mobile web, specifically businesses in the e-commerce sector. So this is a little bit of an outlier in that sense, I think, so far.
So all of a sudden, we're utilizing, obviously, just 2 pages in. We've seen data here that not only gives us comparisons of our closest competitors, but also gives us ideas of to how we should potentially start to align our marketing strategies in terms of, right, what's our experience look like within a mobile device versus desktop? What is it that we're actually aiming for? What are our KPIs in terms of achieving visits versus our competitors? So already we start to paint a picture with the data that we're seeing here.
Absolutely, especially, Tom, with Google's sort of more recent updates, making the search results sort of mobile first. So definitely in this year, more important than ever to make sure that mobile sites are up to standard and people can navigate them easily. Which then brings us on to visit duration versus bounce rate. So there are a few different variations of this report, but this is the one that I personally feel is the most helpful. So what we can see here straight away is a snapshot of the top 10 businesses with regards to traffic and how they perform from a visit duration point of view and also a bounce rate point of view. So as a first example, we've got Morgan Sindall, and they have a really, really low bounce rate, almost 35% bounce rate, meaning people are visiting the website and they're not leaving straight away. They found some information that was useful to them on that first landing page, which is great to see. And they also have a visit duration of going on for probably 3.5 minutes there, which means people are sticking around, reading a lot of information, absorbing a lot of information. So whatever Morgan Sindall are doing at the moment, from a landing page point of view, is actually working really well. And then on the flip side of things, I'm pretty sure they're overlapping down here in the bottom right, but we've got Balfour Beatty, who are at roughly 63% bounce rate. So still not a bad bounce rate, it's absolutely fair to say. But then coupled with a very, very low visit duration as well, only just over a minute there. And those blue lines that you can see across the graph, they are your averages. So just under 55% bounce rate, and actually just over, probably around about 1.5 minutes are those averages for the entire industry. So you got a really good idea of which websites are performing well for their visitors and users and which ones are not quite performing so well. And then we also have the traffic over the year. So 12 months worth of data, and these are the top 10 traffic, highest traffic websites that you can see in this graph here. So essentially, we can gain information about who was performing best sort of this time last year, October last year, and we can also determine who is performing best as of last month of this year. So quickly you can start to gain a good insight into who is performing well in which months of the year and which months of the year are most important for this industry as well. Very, very important to be able to work out that sort of information to then help determine which parts of the year are best for your marketing spend. So to summarize what we've just seen in that first section, the market overview report helps us determine who the best performing businesses are for our selected industry. So straight away, you can start to understand which of those businesses are best to compare yourselves to, assuming that they are closely related in terms of the services that you offer. And it helps you start to build a quick understanding of the size of that market as well. Theoretically, how much market share is there to gain, and how many users are there to gain in this industry? We can also see which businesses perform well in terms of their websites. So which ones have low bounce rates, which ones have high visit durations. Can we look at those websites and start to make improvements of our own? And then we can also see the traffic trends through the year, helping us understand which are the most important months to be utilising any of that marketing spend that we've got.
And as strategists, we absolutely love that first section, me and Matt, because we're able to identify and look at the data. And a lot of our clients come to us and go, right, here's our competitors, but this is our closest competitor. Now, we might turn around to them and say, well, actually, from a digital perspective, you want to be more wary of this particular individual because they're really gaining a lot of fame. And so it puts it on their radar more than they were ever aware. So rather than just a business sense, we're able to give them this secondary kind of outlook from a digital sense of who's their closest competitor and how well they should be doing. So it's a really exciting conversation that we have with our clients regarding that section.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very, very tricky to sometimes determine who your nearest competitors are without this sort of data as well, Tom, isn't it? So being able to extract this information really swiftly, it does the world of good, and it helps you pick out who is going to be best to sort of start comparing yourself against, and maybe sort of, I don't want to say stealing, that's a naughty term to use here, but start to look at their strategies and working out what things might work for you as well.
Steal's fine. Remember, good designers borrow and great designers steal. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So moving on to our marketing channels, we've already looked at how big the industry is and who the key players are in the industry that we've compared. but what marketing channels do they use? So the first slide here shows us all 30 businesses combined, what marketing channels, what percentage of traffic is being driven by which digital marketing channel. So very quickly, you can see that organic search is making up 45% of that traffic to the industry. So a very, very important channel. And also direct is making up 36%. So the first thing that this shows us is that in reality, this market is very, very led by their brand terms and by their brand term searches. Generally, if direct and organic drive a majority of the traffic to the industry, that's what that tells us. It tells us that the branding exercises that these businesses are doing are working relatively well. And a lot of people understand who the businesses are and how to find their websites. Beyond that, we've got quite a good amount of social traffic coming through. So if we remember, it's roughly 5.3 million users that are in this analysed traffic group. So 4.4% being driven by social is actually a very, very large amount of users still. But we can also see that these businesses are using email relatively well, 2.5%, and then also paid search and display ads, although only making up a small percent, that could actually be showing us that there is a great opportunity to use those channels better. And looking at a couple of individual businesses that I've plucked out here, two very different, varying examples of how this traffic differs and how their marketing channel usage differs as well. So hill.co.uk, 21% of their traffic is coming through paid search and also 4% from display ads. So all of a sudden, you can see one business that is utilising those paid channels and to great effect as well. And then also you can see LSG Limited, who has a very similar split in terms of direct and organic traffic as the rest of the combined group, but they have a huge percentage of their traffic being driven by social as well. So very, very helpful to determine that these two businesses are using those channels well. Now we can look at them a little bit closer. What are they doing on paid search? What are they doing on social? How can we start to use that information to better our marketing?
Equally, just on that one as well, Matt, in terms of looking at and analysing and being self-critical of your channel, of how you're getting the traffic as well, is organic and direct as a percentage share together can be quite dangerous actually, as the high proportion, because you are effectively an algorithm change away from jeopardizing a lot of your traffic. So looking at a healthy spread across the different channels is really worthwhile, especially within this industry where actually people are looking for how you market yourselves essentially when it comes to winning contracts within councils, within areas. They'll be looking to see your CSR initiatives, they'll be looking to see your marketing initiatives and how you are representing yourselves. And so having a healthy split across these channels is certainly worthwhile.
Absolutely, yeah. To see some beautiful creative across paid search, display and social as well, like Tom just mentioned, it does give a really good impression of your business and capabilities. So very, very important. Thank you, Tom. And then we move on to the marketing channels or the marketing sources specifically. So what we can see here is a breakdown of which of the traffic sources are making up that organic traffic as a whole. So straight away, you can see that 43% is coming directly from Google organic search. And then you can actually see DuckDuckGo down there in 10th, bit of an up and coming search engine, a privacy focused search engine. However, that only makes up 1%. And then we've got Syndicated Search and a couple of other of the smaller search engines, Yahoo and Bing, down near the bottom. So the majority of that traffic share is absolutely coming from Google search. You can still see 38% coming from direct. But then we also have some referral traffic, which is in relatively high percentages. So we've got Microsoft Online. We've also got SharePoint.com as well. So referral traffic can mean one of two things. It can mean that you have shared information or you've shared documents or something else like a blog post potentially on these websites, and they are then linking back to your website. But it could also mean that you are using sort of display style advertising and maybe potentially linking up with those businesses in order to place adverts on their websites. And clearly you can see there that the Microsoft Online referral traffic is up 158% month on month as well. So clearly these businesses are starting to utilize these places online.
We'll go back to this in the section that I'll present later as well, in terms of understanding the importance of certain channels as well when it comes to personas. So you can see there, from a social perspective, LinkedIn's very, very high. It's fourth, and rightly so. It should be. You know, it's a B2B industry that we're talking about here. The representation of social media within LinkedIn makes absolute sense. However, there's also the opinion of, if you're doing that and putting so much effort into that, are you neglecting other channels where your audience and your personas of the people that you want to attract are still visiting in their own personal lives? And so, you know, having a presence on the other channels is just as important when it comes to that. So we're talking about the Instagrams, the Facebooks, because when people go home, that's the channel that they'll be looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this report can be viewed from two ways. It can be viewed from the point of view of what are your competitors doing and what they're doing well, and therefore what can you look to replicate in some way, or what aren't your competitors doing, and therefore which channels could you utilize that they're not, and, you know, get that one step ahead. So yeah, absolutely, Tom, thank you. We then have information with regards to each individual traffic source or marketing channel. So specifically, we can start to see, and I am going to sort of race through these sections purely based on the fact that they are sort of a little bit repetitive. But what we can see from all these different graphs here, so our organic traffic trend through the year, we can see at which points of the year all of the businesses in this industry are gaining the most or the least traffic. And therefore, at these points in the year, is there something you could be doing to help increase your traffic, to help gain a little bit more footfall in the market? And we also have information with regards to who is performing best on each of these individual marketing channels. So if we think back to our very first slide, weights definitely weren't first in terms of overall traffic being driven. However, from an organic traffic point of view, they absolutely are top of that list, and by quite some way as well. 10,000 monthly visits to be exact, ahead of Kia. So quite quickly, we can start to understand which of these businesses are best to sort of have a closer look at and analyze for each of the individual marketing channels. You know, what information can we glean from their current setup, their current website performance, and their current channel performance. So again, that leads us into direct traffic, the second largest traffic driver for this industry. And you know, it's very sporadic through the year, but you can see quite quickly October last year, March this year, and also June this year, what happened in those months that meant that those increases in traffic were so dramatic. And what can we do in those months of the year to get a part of that action, I suppose. Again, direct traffic leaders. I'm sure you're already all grasping that, yeah, these slides are slightly repetitive, but it's about what does each individual marketing channel show us, like what can we gain in terms of information. And we can see Mace Group there, 30% of their traffic, of the direct traffic, is being driven to their website. So 27,000 monthly visitors. And that could represent the fact that Mace Group have got very, very good branding. They're potentially using some display advertising. They're using creative really well on social channels, and therefore they are able to keep their business in front of mind for the people that are within this industry. Looking at referral traffic, slightly lower numbers there, only up to 28,000 in Jan. But again, what is driving that referral traffic? What channels, what platforms, what websites are these businesses advertising on or discussing their products and services on that is leading to that high amount of referral traffic in those given months? And in this instance, we can actually see Kia, they've been loitering near the top in the previous two traffic leader slides, but you can see here they are actually at the top of their game when it comes to referral traffic. But why is that? You know, we can do a further analysis and determine exactly why and what it is that's making their referral traffic perform so well. Social traffic. So, Tom, I imagine your favourite slide out of all these traffic leader slides. But essentially, you can actually see August and September this year, very, very clearly, businesses have had a huge push on social. And that's really exciting from our point of view. You know, it gives us an opportunity to take a look at the businesses here. ISG Group, as we already talked about in our marketing channel breakdown, they are doing really, really well from a social point of view. 38% of the social traffic in our analysed industry is going to ISG Limited. That's 4.3 thousand visitors, 4,300, I should say. So performing extremely, extremely well. What information can we glean from what they're doing on their social channels? How can we start to use our social channels better? And we've also got a little bit of paid search traffic, not the hugest. And in actual fact, we can see here that hill.co.uk are currently the only business that our platform picked up as to generating paid search traffic. But that, from a marketer's standpoint, from a strategist point of view, that's slightly concerning. There is huge potential in the paid advertising market, both from a paid search point of view and also from a display advertising point of view, as you'll see in a moment. How can we look to utilize this channel better? And in the first instance, can we use the information about hill.co.uk strategy to then reflect something for our own strategy? And finally, as I already mentioned, we've got that display traffic trend now. It almost looks like as of March this year, a few businesses essentially turned on the tap, and display advertising started to be utilized a lot better. But display advertising doesn't always necessarily reflect its performance in the amount of traffic being driven through display. And the reason for that is display advertising is quite literally images, sometimes beautiful imagery across the web. And that beautiful imagery, the better the creative, and Thom will probably thank me for saying this, but the better the creative, the more likely those people, those individuals in this in analysed industry are likely to remember you, remember your business, remember that brand name,
and stay with us with that. Yeah, absolutely. Because we'll go through the examples of that later on. Of somebody I've picked on has actually gone through a major rebrand, but they're still not quite getting it right when it comes to digital marketing. So we'll go through that at the end.
Sounds exciting, Thom. Sounds exciting. But yeah, absolutely. There is so much potential to use these brand names and some strong creative to drive traffic, not just through display ads, but then also directly to the site if they can remember your brand name, or via organic search. All it takes is searching that brand name on Google to gain a new user for your website. So very, very important to be using these channels as effectively as possible. And finally, we can see the display traffic leaders. So Morgan Sindall, Buckingham Group, and Kier as well started to utilize this channel a little bit more in the past few months. So to summarize that section for you, the marketing channels report gives us a really quick snapshot of the channels that businesses in this comparison are using. We can also see the marketing sources. We can break down the channels into their individual sources, and it gives us a strong indication of which digital activities we should be performing. We can spot trends in traffic through the year, and we can also see exactly which businesses' strategies are the first or the most important ones to review from our traffic leaders reports. Who can we sort of glean information from and start to use that information to better our own marketing efforts? And then finally, and the last section for myself before I pass over to Thom for you, is the audience overview. So essentially, our audience overview gives us information with regards to geography, as you can see here, and then also other demographical bits of information. But the first thing we want to talk about is geography. So the important thing to bear in mind with geography is that there is a very common misconception for some UK-based businesses that the UK market is the only market they need to focus on. However, you can see very, very quickly from the data here that in actual fact, only 47% of the traffic visiting the websites in this analysed industry, and that is meant to say September 22. Apologies for that, just to clarify. But 47% of the traffic is actually from United Kingdom visitors. The rest of that traffic, so the larger percentage, 53%, is actually from users visiting from abroad. So
which
straight
makes
away,
sense, doesn't it? When it comes to obviously the 30 that we're pulling out, these companies are multinationals. You know, Skanska, for example, is I believe a Finnish company or a Swedish company. I can't recall which one. So you know, a lot of these companies that we've highlighted here do have international offices and a presence overseas. So you know,
absolutely.
when you come to it, it depends on the competitors that we're putting in place to obviously go through that, doesn't it, Matt?
Yeah, of course it does. And I think, you know, it's just very important to remember that if you are looking at using social channels or looking at using paid media channels, then ensuring that your advertising doesn't just center around one language potentially or center around one sort of nation, then it's very important to bear that in mind, because it's a very very important bit of information to have missed in reality. If you can translate for your social channels to drive traffic from all these different countries, fantastic. If you can set up creative that speaks to these different countries' users in different ways, you know, that reflect the way in which that country would operate, absolutely spot on. And that also wants to be reflected in your creative as well.
Sure.
And then we can also see geographical growth. So this is for the last year, but essentially this gives us great helpful information with regards to which of the countries in our analysis are driving more or less traffic over the course of the last year. And in actual fact, you can see the United Kingdom down at the bottom there, which since August has actually decreased in traffic, you know, almost going on for 50% in some months. So again, important to note that. However, you can also see the Netherlands there increasing up to 200% in March.
We always see a spike. It's quite interesting in Netherlands traffic around March and April. And after doing a bit of digging, apparently it's to do with their association with budget alignments. When budgets are released, it's always around the April period. So the research in allocating agencies, construction businesses, whatever it may be, seems to happen during those months. So we always see this Netherlands big spike, essentially, which is quite interesting.
We do, and strangely, it almost doesn't seem to matter which industry you're in, does it, Tom, or what business you are?
It's
you know, March and April for Netherlands traffic just seems to dramatically increase.
So again, things and ideas like that obviously give you an idea. So if you were in charge of an EMEA marketing strategy, then you would obviously put in place ads that would suit that Netherlands kind of outreach of kind of looking and doing their research within those matter of months, for example. So these are the types of carrots of information and nuggets of information that we can pull out and say, right, well, during these periods, you should put an ad out in that region, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what this is all about. It's about those nuggets of information, isn't it, Tom? And then using those nuggets of information to expand on your research further. We've then also got a quick demographic snapshot, so we can very, very swiftly gain an idea of what's the gender distribution of our analysed industry. So you can see here, 58% of visitors to these sites are male and 42% are female. And we can also see the age distribution. So only 14% between 18 and 24, but then that largest percentage of traffic coming from 25 to 34-year-olds. Now, it's pretty safe to say that this age distribution sort of style through the years, the percentages do tend to drop, but we can actually see 10% and 6% for that older age group, that 55 to 64 and 65 plus age group. Definitely not implying that anybody in the room of those age groups is old at all. But it's very, very important to bear this information in mind when it comes to designing creatives and looking at ensuring that your advertising or whatever it may be is designed around those age groups, or potentially adjusting your creatives and trying to display different creatives to the different age groups that are the most important for your business and your industry. And then we also thereafter get a full breakdown of the different demographic groups for each of the businesses in our industry. So we can see a clear group at the top there with 28% of their traffic coming from the 25 to 34-year-olds. But we can actually see Mace Group up at 32% for the 25 to 34 age group, and also 13.6% for 18 to 24-year-olds. So you can see straight away that their traffic group is a slightly younger demographic. Therefore, how can we alter creatives to reflect that? And then just the breakdown of the traffic sites in the industry there too. But some really, really exciting information, and just a quick summary there for you again. So the audience overview report helps us determine if our marketing should be centered around a particular country, or if we should ensure that our marketing is spread across different nations, especially those nations in which we are looking to operate. And we can also determine which countries are providing more or less traffic throughout the year. Specifically, we discussed Netherlands as a fantastic example, those March and April months. What can we do to maximize on the potential of that traffic if it's relevant for us to do so? We can also see a breakdown of the demographics and determine how we should be focusing our marketing efforts for those different age groups, those different gender groups, and how can our creatives and how can our marketing be altered or made more effective for those demographics. And with all that information, we then look at building user profiles as well. So in reality, Thom, this helps us gain a quick understanding of all of the businesses within the industry, and then we can start to move on to the slightly more nitty-gritty part, where we can start to build an idea of who these people really are and what sort of creative is going to be most powerful for the people in this industry. And I think at that point, I will pass over to yourself, Thom.
Thank you very much. Yeah, shall I take over the screen? So if you stop sharing, Matt, I'll start sharing.
Yep, that's absolutely fine.
So we are on track. Probably, I'm going to rattle through this, guys. We are on track to finish around 10 o'clock. So if it goes a little bit over, I apologise, but I'll go as quickly as possible. Am I full screen in there, Matt?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, in terms of that, the web data that we've gone through, amazing snapshot of the industry, amazing snapshot of the competitors. We're able to see lots of different ideas of how we can capitalize on not only what our website's doing, but also what our competitors are doing. So that's a really great section there. Fantastic for UX audits, user experience. What is it that people are gaining? What is it your call to actions are saying? Now, when we take a step back again, we put that same data, those same businesses that we started off with, and we put them into our other data tool, which is a persona tool. And it looks at the types of individuals that we're going to be talking to on an ongoing basis. And we're able to start going, right, well, if that's a key area of the followers that I have, then we should capitalize on that and manipulate the creative to be more relevant to them. So that's what we do. We're very much an audience first agency here, so we understand who the audience are. So again, this is the size of the competitors in terms of active projects. It's exactly the same data that we've used with Matt, but we've just put it into a different tool. And so this tool looks at the combined following of those accounts within social and assumes different personas and gives us ideas. So to go through that, straight away, as soon as we put those 30 in, there's some fantastic personas that come out the other end of it. So the biggest section is civil engineers, which we totally understand for those companies that we put in. The next is innovation in construction. The next is architecture and architects. The next is then renewable energy. Then we've got social housing, equipment hire, electrical safety, and property sales. So you can see the size of these businesses and these personas throughout. So civil engineers make up 22% of the interest, and obviously got Skanska as being a key player in there, right down to obviously when they've built the projects, they need people to sell them. Which is 3% of the market. So obviously the bits that make up the rest just are other, so to speak. So these are 8 key areas there. So you start understanding, right, well, have we got content that appeals to civil engineers? Have we got content that appeals to innovation within the construction industry? So on and so forth. What we're able to then do is look at the combined demographics. Now you can see here the dark green is our audience, our 30, so to speak, and it's versus the light green, which is the UK average. So you can see here how you can make differentiators between your marketing strategies for this industry versus what you do as a whole. So you can see here, yes, it is a male dominant market, but actually it's 20% more male dominant than the rest of the UK. So you start understanding, you know, kind of if you're making assumptions, realistically, you can sway one way or the other. Obviously, in terms of, sorry, did you say something, Matt, then?
Yeah, apologies, Tom. I was just going to loop in there and say that in reality, this is where we can start to use the tools together as a combination. You know, both of these tools are showing us the same sorts of data, so it's almost like double confirmation that that's what we need to be doing.
Exactly that.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes that's important. You know, it's not just using one tool's piece of information. It's about combining the efforts of all the different tools that we've got to get that proper overview.
Exactly, yeah. And one thing as well with this is, and this is one thing about data, it gives us some really irrelevant data as well. So although I can look at location, is that really relevant? I don't know. I don't think so. So we can dismiss a lot of things. Like, for example, it's that powerful, this data. It tells me the most average first name follower is called Paul at 0.7% of the entire following, which is, you know, within the millions. We've got about 3,000 polls there. So there you go. It shows you just how irrelevant it can be. But then when we look at age range, 1824 is the biggest industry. But actually, if you think about it, it's only because there's that many more 18 to 24-year-olds connected and online. So when you delve down into what's the biggest, I suppose, versus the UK average, you start going into that 35 to 54-year-old market. So you start understanding real key information and minutiae within the detail as well. So I'm going to rattle through these next part.
That point as well, Tom, on the contrary to the data we had with the demographical information from SimilarWeb, you know, we can actually see that some of those older demographics are higher than the UK average. So all of a sudden, we need to think about altering that creative to suit that.
Exactly that, yeah. So relevance within the actual topic of the subject matter. And Absolutely. So on and so forth. So we're always marking our own homework, so to speak. Once we do a creative, we go back to the data and go, right, is it relevant? Yes, it is. So that's how we do it. Also, we can look at the socioeconomics of this combined following. So you can see here, sorry for the Americanization, college grad means university graduate. So we are twice as likely to be college educated within this industry, and so you start thinking about the intelligence, and so you can be a bit more forgiving in terms of terminology and a bit more professional language as well. Equally, they are 10 times more likely to be married, and so you start thinking about the subject matter and the imagery that you use in place of that to make this subliminal connection to the lifestyles of the audience. So we're very data driven when it comes to our creative development. Equally, we can look at the parents, and they are nearly 10 times more likely to have adult children. So we're talking again, you know, about that 50s, that area there, because they've got kids that are 18 to 26. And so you start thinking again, what's the subject matter? Who are the individuals in the imagery that we're using? What's the colors that we're using? How forgiving can we be in terms of being creative? Do we stay traditional? So on and so forth. And so this is the type of snapshot that it gives us. Now we look at influencers combined within the industry, and influencers means the affinity. So I suppose the relevance of the channels to the combined following. And you can see here, Keir and Wilmot Dixon are very, very high within this list. And you can see then followed by these two businesses, actually a industry paper, Construction News, comes in. So you can see two of the actual businesses themselves are more relevant to our audience than an industry paper itself. And so you start understanding, right, well, if we are down here, I don't know, we're talking about Skanska, for example, right, Wilmot Dixon and Keir are more on my radar now than they ever were before. And so you start looking at their attachment to their particular marketing strategies. And because Skanska want to improve, that's how we go up. So influencers within the market are very, very important to us to look at as well. we can look at then adding different aspects to these influencers that we look at as well. So as you can see, what I had before, influencers combined, that's just all it is. But I can start adding different things here. So I've now applied a country filter to Great Britain and a micro influencer. So actually a maximum of 10,000 followers. So we start looking at micro influencers. Now that can be very good for little partnerships and things that we can put in place, or actually for quick wins in PR as well. So we start looking at content that we can push out to certain individuals who are very relevant within the industry, but on that micro level that might be very good in location, within city base, whatever it may be. So if you're actually trying to be very strategic in winning certain contracts within certain areas, you can start putting blogs and PR and CSR initiatives in front of the people that matter within those areas. So again, another really, really great tactic within the strategy itself. Right through to, right, let's look at blogs. So we've added Great Britain and micro influencers up to 10,000 over here. Again, we've now added blogs on that. So people within the Great Britain with maximum following of followers, but they write blogs. So you start like looking at people that are influential within those certain aspects as well. So Rick Robinson might be, right, I'm going to put something in front of him, going to get a PR press release out, make him come out, invite him over. So you start really understanding what you can do within this market with our tools. Finally, we look at the network of LinkedIn instead of blogs. Now, this is where we start bullying or pulling someone out. Not bullying, it's the wrong word. Now, I've used this because it's really important that Skanska are just below Wilmot Dixon. So how can Skanska look at Wilmot Dixon's LinkedIn initiative and learn from it and start growing? Skanska's well hot on the heels. Skanska's also had a major rebrand, and it looks really great. But are they utilizing absolutely every form of best practice to catch up with Wilmot Dixon and ultimately take over? Now, this can be the other way around. Wilmot Dixon need to look at Skanska, who are hot on their heels, and up their game in terms of that. And so we start bullying them and really start looking at how we as an agency now can single them out. So it's as if Skanska came to us now and said, right, do us one of these reports, one of the free reports that all of you guys will get after this, which is really, really great. So we then look at the channel relevance as well, and we start understanding how these different channels can be really key for this industry. Now, LinkedIn, as we've just seen here, that Wilmot Dixon are absolutely nailing, is 14.26 times more relevant in this industry versus that of the UK general. So there really is a key platform here. Medium is also a blog tool. It's up and coming. It has been up and coming for years. Who knows? But that just shows the importance of actually blogging and creating updated content within your websites. So again, blogs are nearly 5 times more likely to be relevant than the UK average. Pinterest as well. You've got some fantastic builds in this industry, haven't you? Some fantastic shots and photography, and their mood boarder, you know, to supply. So it might be a relevant channel for this combined industry because that's their passion. But is it a relevant platform to be actually pushing a marketing strategy? This is where we take things with a pinch of salt. And right through to also Facebook saying, the likes of the Meta platform saying, right, it's low. You'd be forgiven for thinking it was low. No, it's 3 times more likely to be used in this industry than the UK average. So why are we neglecting Facebook as a channel? We all in this industry have a LinkedIn and a Twitter, but we very rarely have an Instagram and a Facebook. So you are really losing out on a high proportion, almost 20% of your opportunity within social if you aren't having a relevant presence. Now, we're not saying double the workload. We're saying just completely copycat your LinkedIn strategies over to those channels as well. Have a presence. So it's really important for us to see that. And then finally, you can see the shares over here is very high versus UK average. That means people will share your content a lot more likely within this industry. So you start understanding. Don't ask people to do their own. Ask them to share. So you start understanding their behaviours and what they can achieve.
Yeah,
right, I'm going to get through that.
Just to add to that, Tom, as well, the utilization of multiple platforms gives you more touch points with those people in your industry.
Without a doubt. And it's and what we call cumulative exposure. Get them from all angles, essentially. You know, it's that
Absolutely.
repetition, it's the consideration as well. So if you're using imagery without your branding, you may be offering competitors consideration because their automatic assumption of I've always used Kia or I've always used Wilmot Dixon, and so that's the people that I'm associating it with. But actually, it's a Skanska post. You've lost that opportunity. So get them from all angles and throw brand in their face. So based on that Skanska opportunity where they've gone right, we're just behind Wilmot Dixon. How can we operate and how can we get through? We run this platform through their channel and compare it rather than the UK average to the competitors of the entire construction webinar industry that we've done throughout this. So their personas are slightly different. So they get these 7 key personas out there. So the followers of Skanska have construction industry, health infrastructure, obviously electrical maintenance because they're a very electrical business, architecture again, the BIM, which is, I believe, the B1M and what have you, is a construction-based, I don't know, publication, sustainability, and again, hire and plant. So we lose different personas within this because they're less relevant, i.e. the sale at the end. A lot less relevant for a company like Skanska, for example. But then you start looking at actually Screwfix here. You know, they start being like competitors that you're bringing up and opportunities that you can start putting things in place. Electrical maintenance, do a Skanska, you know, offer. If you come and work and contract with Skanska, you get X% off at Screwfix, and so on and so forth. There's lots of opportunities that we can see. Now, when we compare their data to the UK to the construction webinar rather than the UK, you start pulling out different terms, different age ranges, different specifics. Again, might not be relevant, but we can show this data throughout and start comparing it. And this is the data you get if you come back to us at the end of this webinar and ask for yours versus your competitors. So we can start seeing slightly less college educated. However, it's not enough to kind of say anything that leaps out of us or anything like that. We're looking for high leaps and opportunities that are unique, less managerial, less administrative, less likely to be married, more likely to be single. And so then we start seeing different, kind of parental aspects that come out through this as well. They're more likely to be younger at Skanska following. So we can start affording to have a younger mindset in terms of our content. Now, finally, we have our personality trait as well. So you can see here that within the personality traits of the followers of Skanska, we are looking at a high conscientiousness with a low neurotic behavioral aspect to their personalities. And so we are able to show you cheat sheets for this. So if we're looking at high conscientiousness, we can show you the influencers, the emojis most likely these guys are using. It's mad the amount of data, the imagery examples, the ad examples. We can show you all of these different aspects that we can take from this type of personality trait, and then versus the low neuroticism. So we can look at, like, again, how do we build this marketing strategy and wording, the style, how we talk within our content within social, the imageries that we use, the ads that we use, whatever it may be. We can really be key with data here. So I'm rattling through because I really want to get to the creative part, and we haven't got long left. And again, this channel relevance here, it shows us how Skanska's channels are more relevant to that of the construction webinar. So it might say 1.24. We saw 14.5 times more relevant LinkedIn was within the construction industry. This is versus that construction industry. So they are more likely to be LinkedIn relevant. So that's fantastic. Because we've now got a massive opportunity where we saw the LinkedIn strategy for Skanska was only second behind Wilmot Dixon. And so that is really our credited channel that we should be really focusing on. So it starts giving us ideas. Now, when we get into this creative overview, we can look at, all of the different types that we look at in terms of that user first approach. So the persona first approach, we approach creative from that data. We look at that data. We understand who it is that we wish to talk to, and we build these fantastic personas and these templates around that. Now, we're doing this for some fantastic companies at the moment. You know, some global companies such as Uber. We are utilizing this persona type approach for those guys, and we know that we're so data driven. Not only are we basing it on this persona, but we've also got to base it on the traits of the platform. And we have 0.125 seconds to grab someone's attention. That's how critical we need to be. How are you getting the message across in that short space of time? Well, if you're not, then you know it's quite worrying, so to speak, because people are scrolled past in the politest possible way. Nobody is opening LinkedIn to look at you. Nobody is opening Facebook to look at you. They are looking to pass time, to understand, educate themselves, but they are certainly not looking for you. They're looking to be distracted and they're looking to be grabbed in attention. So do that for them. Grab their attention. Make enough of that mobile screen. Take it up. Don't let them scroll past or be enticed. Follow the guidelines of the platform in order to grab that attention, because that's key within this. Not only are we designing for the persona, but we are designing for the platform. And this is when we go through and say, Skanska, you've had this great rebrand. You're second place only to Wilmot Dixon. How are you utilizing your new branding and ticking the boxes for those platforms? How are they? Well, not very well by all accounts. So this is their rebrand. It's beautiful, actually. It must have cost a lot of money. Now, are they utilizing it in a digital sense, or have they gone traditional? Well, I'll tell you, they've gone traditional. It's great, and with a few adaptations, they can certainly capitalize. But you can see here already there's some cardinal sins, and I'll tell you what they are when it comes to designing for platforms. Remember, you have to be critical. It's not just your LinkedIn. It has to match when they click through and come to your website. So understanding how you can actually have this consistency throughout and to grab someone's attention throughout and make sure they know it's you. So these are the last three posts that Skanska have done, essentially. You can see here the new branding has been real pushed over. How can innovations produce productivity? Well, what is that? What are you trying to ask me to do? So new branding, brilliant, but it's not being used. They're not sticking to their own rules, because what even is this post for? Like, okay, that's fantastic, Katie Dowding, but what is it that you're trying to tell me? That's a passing comment. So what is it you're trying to make me do? When you look a bit further into it, you hit this see more, which I hate on anything, and they want me to actually register for a webinar. Where in that asset does it tell me there's a webinar? It doesn't. So you have to be so self-critical. How do I transform that over? Also, the headline, how can innovations and process boost productivity, is pretty much carbon copy of the same Katie Dowding, Executive Vice President. What's the relevance and how's the hierarchy of that content? Second one, no branding within this particular asset. And so you're offering consideration to others. Actually, it's a HS2 shot. It's not Skanska at all. So Skanska have gone out their way to actually give consideration to HS2. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do with this asset? It's just a plain image. And people fall into this trap all the time because they're like, well, we had branding on our last post. Well, I assure you, the users don't care, because they're scrolling through and they've scrolled straight past this. They've seen HS2. They haven't seen Skanska. They haven't associated that post with you. You've done all that work for nothing. Finally.
Yeah. There is nothing wrong with your brand being associated with every single post in reality,
absolutely.
is there, Tom?
Throw it down the face. Nobody's looking at your post and being critical of that. Get your branding on everything.
Yeah, it's about how that post links back to your brand as well, isn't it?
Exactly that. Yeah, the relevance. What do you want me to do? Are you just showing off? Are you just saying this is the case? Or do you want me to click and read more about a blog? You know, what is it it's trying to achieve? Finally, on the third one here, it's not a digital first language. There's too much copy and no context. And knowledge and foresight shapes how we work with our customers. Okay, thank you. But what is it you're trying to say? Well, actually, you read the copy. oh, they use augmented reality and they help customers to visualize their completed build during construction. That's brilliant. Reword that and actually make that statement with a click through to read a blog or whatever it may be. Now, that's fine. We've dissected those three, and I've just told you that. But the biggest mistake in all three of these and consistency is the format. Every single one of these is landscape. That means when I'm on my mobile device, that landscape post takes up just that middle section, which means I can see the post above and I can see the post below, giving me temptation. If you take that landscape to square, automatically, just that change, doesn't matter about your brand, just from landscape to square, on average, gains you 9 times more engagement. So understanding how formats and how platforms work versus your brand and versus the personas is very key here when it comes to creative and being very self-critical. So I'd take every single one of these and make them square. So you can see here, all of a sudden, you see that middle shot there where it's just an image. If we bring in their new branding using diagonal shape, using the branding at the top, you've caught my eye. You've caught my attention. I've got a green punchy, which is their brand guidelines. I've checked that color. Read more. Brilliant. I will. Stradmore joint venture launched its first tunneling machine. Brilliant. Okay. You tell me you've owned back your own asset. So we're highlighting it. We're giving it breathing space. We're taking up more of the screen, this nice white big block here, and we're pulling people in. And it works far better than just an image. So all of a sudden, we've got a punchy headline, got a call to action. We're using brand guides to stand out. We're using imagery with the grid structure that they've already got, and we're mixing shape to break the digital up, down, left, right. So by using diagonal shape a lot, it really works because people look at their socials like this. So if you introduce something like this, it attracts their eye. Brilliant. As well, we start looking at, languages. We saw that one before. We've made her image bigger. We've made her stand out. We've pulled back the Skanska. We've took it to their own grid system, but we've also brought down Katie Dowd in her own box. The copy was fine, but we've also added it's a webinar. Brilliant. I know you need to register that. It's the date. It's the actual call to action there. And then finally, we've pulled back. We've used Big Blue. We've introduced the green see how, using AR to help customers visualize completed builds. That's what we wanted to see. That's exactly what we need to see from that asset. So even though these guys have made it difficult for myself, I've picked the one company that have gone through a major rebrand in the most beautiful way because they've done a fantastic job of it. But even those guys aren't getting it right. So you go from before and after on the right. Look how much more it stands out. Look at the size. I know obviously it's bigger on the page, but equally, look how much that would attract your eye. The white space used, the Skanska ownability, the actual branding within that, the diagonal movement, it really helps you stand out. Equally, I've hardly done any changes to this. I've made her image bigger. I've pulled back the logo top. I've pulled the branding down to the bottom. I've put her name in a blue box and I've added webinar at the top. But look how much more powerful it is in taking your attention and grabbing that. And then finally, our knowledge and foresight shapes how we work with our customers. No, using AR to help customers visualize completed builds. It's a better use of terminology. Let's see how that happens. Massive bulk color in the background. You don't need to use all of the image to suggest what you're trying to say. That little snapshot, that little clip of the image works just as well to take up less room. Add their really dynamic branding into that, and you've got diagonal movement. It really helps to draw in the eye. So that's how we do it for Skanska, and that's what we'd come away with and go, look, guys, based on your persona work and based on what you've currently got and based on the format, this is where we take you from, and this is where we're going to take you to. And that's really exciting because we can even do that for people that have gone through a major big budget rebrand. So we can do it also for the smaller guys, the people that already need that marketing strategy in place.
Important to bear in mind, Tom, as well, that this sort of creative, especially when done to this beautiful level, can be utilized across all the different channels.
Absolutely.
It might need altering in terms of sizes, in terms of image file size and things like that, but if you can sort of plaster this beautiful imagery across absolutely every channel, you know, we're talking Google Ads display, the other paid channels, the other social channels, you know, you're making best use of that artwork, aren't you?
Bang on. Yeah, it's cumulative exposure. So make the most of what you actually do and push it through. And the good thing is we know all the platforms, we know the best guides. So I've just shown you that with LinkedIn. We know it for all of the tricks of the trade with every single platform, utilizing color, shape, and how to stand out with use brand and direct language as well. And that's based on not only best guidelines, but your key personas that are personalized to you. So asset creation, you know, we follow all of the latest. We absolutely, I don't know if you can tell, quite passionate about our creative as well, which is really, really good. And we've got some fantastic ideas and theories about how we apply that in data, which I won't bore you about now. Now, when we look at a B2C example, and this is the last part, and I apologize that we've gone a little bit over, so nearly done now, but we'll send you the recording afterwards. The last part. This is a live example of a B2C construction industry company. Any guesses who this is? You know, you can by all means think to yourself, who could this be? You put it in chat if you want. Who could this be? It's a reputable high street name. This is the importance of why we need to own our own content. Because realistically, this could be anyone, couldn't it? It could be B&Q, it could be Screwfix, it could be Wix. Who sells sinks? Who's known for it? So if you don't brand something like that, you have the opportunity as a user to make an assumption. The assumption being, where was the last place I bought something like this? Because I'm telling you now, nobody looks at your profile picture. It's actually the fourth thing people look at. So when people are scrolling past and they see just a sink, just an image of a sink like that, they're associating themselves with the last place that they bought it from, or the last place that they saw that sold it, not the person doing the ad. And actually, that's a beautiful shot somebody's gone to the effort of taking, to writing copy for, and actually posting it out. But who do we think actually was this for? Well, I'll tell you, it was for Screwfix. And that was their post on the right. It was from this year. Screwfix. Tap, tap. The swirl basin monotype has now a 10% saving. What are you doing, Screwfix? Even the big guys, the people that we understand are really good at this, get it wrong. Now, they do this quite regularly. A lot of their content's brilliant and very owned, but a lot of it isn't. And they have this fall into this same path and this same category of, oh, we don't brand everything because it'll all look the same. People don't care. Brand everything because you need to own it. Otherwise, you're giving consideration and sales to a competitor. So you need to really own your own content. Put the branding all over it. So what we thought was we'd take it from what you saw there, adding in their branding, adding in their colors that you can't second guess about, adding in tap dance, 20% off all taps on. Obviously, it wasn't the thing, but you know, all automatically look at the difference. On the left, it could be anybody. It could be Wix. It could be B&Q. On the right, there's no question that's Screwfix. So come down and have a look. Also, as well, who knew before we put tap dance that it was about the tap, not the sink itself? So without owning your own content, it's very difficult because it could be approached to anybody. And this is a live example from a big player. And that's the type of thing that we look at, is being critical and understanding who your audience are, the humor or the content that you need to write it for, and also the channel it's going out on. You need to own it, and you need that kind of that approach. So that concludes our webinar today. As we've said at the end, you know, next steps essentially is how can this be useful for you? We'll send this deck out and this recording out to everybody that's made the effort to register. Thank you very much for applying and coming over here today. Now, we are offering you a rundown of your own data. Please book it in. Obviously, it won't be an instant return. We'd like to present that back to you. You know, start thinking between now and then about what it is you've got, you know, what it is that you're trying to achieve. Are you a high-end B2B client like the Skanskas that we've talked through, or are you a product-led company within this industry? Have you got key events you can capitalize on? What's your initiatives coming up? And you know, understand that we are a full-service industry. So please tell us as much as you can so you have the best outcome for your deck. Because
absolutely, it's well worth pointing out as well, Tom, that each individual instance, each free audit for any business or free competitor insight audit, I should say, is completely unique as well. In reality, we want you to provide some competitors that you deem as the most important ones to analyze against, and we also want to be able to give you more in-depth information within this audit as well. Like there'll be some key takeaways from the information as well. So
absolutely, yeah,
well worth the while.
So I know we've had a few drop off in this interim, and I apologise. And there's a few questions here, so we're happy to obviously go through anything with you guys now in terms of questions. We do ask for a review. We've just sent a pop up there. If you can give us a review, that would be absolutely fantastic. Get us known and out there if you haven't already. But also, if you've got any more questions, please put them in the chat. Obviously, we're here to help. We'll send this recording, obviously. But yeah, if there's anything else that you want, that'd be we're all here, so to speak.
Helen, you hopefully had a pop-up on your screen, but if you close that pop-up without realizing potentially what it was, you should be able to see up in the top right there is a current offer. So if you click apply now, you'll be able to get in touch and request.
Yeah,
however, it looks like Tom was just popping his email in the chat as well for everyone.
You can send me or Matt an email at any given point, and obviously we'll
or even both if you'd like to.
Yeah.
We're both here to help.
So yeah, by all means, yeah, we'll have a conversation. We're here. We're real people, so we'll talk back to you to get the best out of it. We'll take a brief from you, and yeah, we'll go from there. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining today. You'll get the recording after this, and yeah, if there's anything else from you, Matt.
No, absolutely not. No, it's been a great talk. Thanks everyone for attending, and hopefully we get the opportunity to speak to you all soon.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.